Well, Paul, thank you very much indeed. It is true that I am the only minister in government whose official job is to do themselves out of a job. I share the hope and the aspiration, although some of the details still being ironed out, but everybody is working in the same direction. And on the football theme, I was just discussing with President McAleese that we now share a goalkeeper in common because, of course, Ireland's goalkeeper is also Manchester City's goalkeeper, Shay Given. But it's a great honour, actually, to be here today and to make some opening remarks at your very important event. And to begin, of course, by congratulating you on your 10th birthday, quite an achievement. And so much done in those 10 years. I was just speaking to Seamus beforehand. He estimated in the region of 20,000 individuals have been assisted by the Trust in that 10-year period. And just think of that in terms of the quality of their lives, their families, the wider police family, indeed the wider community, because I know the Trust continues to reach out beyond. So it's a remarkable set of achievements. It is true, of course, that any organisation in the modern world has to be ready for change. If organisations don't change, then they wither away, frankly. And whether you're a private business, whether you're a public organisation or agency, change is constantly on the agenda. Sometimes it's change which is forced on you, perhaps by external circumstances. Sometimes it's change that comes from within. But it is those organisations that are ready to embrace change that can really move forward. But of course, we must never forget the fact that when organisations change, there are consequences for individuals. And it strikes me that there are two questions in the minds of an individual who's working with an organisation and for an organisation that's in the process of change. I think the first question is, what does this mean about what I've given in the past, about my contribution in the past to this organisation? Does it mean it counts for nothing now? I think is one question. And a second question, which is very high in their order of priorities, is what happens to me now? Does this mean I have a different role? Does it mean I have a role outside the organisation? These are very deep personal questions, of course, which have to be answered. What's clear is that in Northern Ireland over the last decade, where so much has been achieved, change has been around in so many different aspects of life, of public life, of business life. And I think that the police family, perhaps more than any other aspect of Northern Ireland society, has had to embrace change and follow through change. And of course, this has had implications for individuals as well as for the organisation. And I believe that the end product of that process of change is a very confident, modern, professional police service, one that is now, frankly, more representative of the community that it serves. So it's an achievement which everybody can be justifiably proud of. But then there are those two questions that I referred to. Does this process of change mean that everything that went before and the contributions that went before count for nothing? Absolutely not. And it's very important that I place on record again this morning what I've said consistently throughout the time I've held these responsibilities. I pay tribute to all those regular officers, full-time reserve officers, part-time reserve officers, who have given so much to deal with the threats, the challenges and the problems that have beset Northern Ireland in the past, and have actually enabled this more prosperous, brighter, more confident future to be able to emerge. So rather than counting for nothing, it counts for everything that people made those sacrifices, and I want to say that today. But then that second question, what happens to me now? What are the consequences for me and my family? And that's where the work of the Trust has been so important, working with those thousands of individuals to work through the consequences of change for them. Going back to 1999, of course, when the Trust began its work, change was already very much in the air. The reduction in officer numbers as a result of the ceasefires and the more hopeful future that beckoned. Obviously, change had already begun. Then the Patten report and the further process of change and the quickening of the pace of change, which the Trust was then ideally positioned to be able to help with. And that means, as Seamus said, 20,000 individuals helped and all their families and the wider community too. And it's interesting to look at the range of the work that has been carried out. really impressive work, helping people to put together their personal development plans, to do the education and training that may be needed in order to move on to another role, to move on to another job. And that's something, of course, which is increasingly a feature of modern life, that people will move on and between different professions from time to time. And I was just asking about the kind of roles and jobs that people have moved into, and there's a huge range, as you can imagine. Some moving on into trades, electricians, gas fitters and so on, very important work. Others pursuing a more academic route, perhaps working in community safety, working with local councils and so on, a whole range of options there. I asked for what were the more unusual roles that people had done. I told somebody had trained as a helicopter pilot, that somebody had trained as a beautician, although they hastily added that that was a female retiring officer rather than a male retiring officer. But the breadth is there. And I think the way the Trust has taken the ambition, the skills and the aspirations of people and turned them into second and next careers is really impressive. But then also, of course, there's that huge and very important task of supporting and helping those who've been hurt and harmed and injured through the process of policing Northern Ireland in the past. Sometimes this means physical support, physiotherapy services. Sometimes it means more emotional support, psychological services. Sometimes it also is all kinds of practical help. And again, that has been priceless work which has been undertaken by the Trust. And again, I want to pay tribute to all those who've been involved in that very, very important work. So what this means is that thousands of people have been able to move on and develop their own careers, their own skills and potential, and I think that's superb. And I do want to finish by warmly thanking all those who've been involved in the Trust, because it's all right setting a Trust up with fine ideas and fine ideals, but it requires real people to show leadership, organisation and dedication, and that's what people have done in this Trust as directors, as staff, right down through the 10 years. And I really want to place on record my appreciation for all that you have done. So finally, it is now my great pleasure, indeed my great honour, to be able to introduce to you your special guest today at this very important 10th anniversary celebration. Somebody who needs no introduction from me, who I know there's great affection in the room for her, for all the work that she has done in relation to inclusion and respect. But I ask you to give a very, very warm welcome for the President of Ireland, Mary McAleese.